Thanks, Joe. Let me come to Margaret Curran first. By restricting the winter fuel allowance to only the non-rich pensioners, you save about £100 million. What's that as a percentage of overall government spending?
Well, it's a very small percentage of overall government. Well, minuscule in terms of the grand scale of things.
It's 0.01%.
But can I tell you, £100 million is still a lot of money. And I think if you've
what would you do with it?
If you've got an attitude to government spending that says every pound matters, every £10, every £1 million matters, then I think that indicates.
So what would you do with the £100 million?
Well, what we do is try and create growth back in the economy again.
What with the £100 million?
Well, it would contribute a lot of things in terms of helping and how you get challenged.
Hold on, Margaret Curran. This economy is a £1.5 trillion economy. £100 million makes zero difference to growth, whatever you do with it.
No, it can make a difference. You know,
well, tell me what
you could spend on housing, for example. That could, that could produce housing. It could do all sorts of things.
How much would that contribute to growth? Spending £100 million on housing. How much would that contribute to growth?
Well, if you were in one of those houses, I think it might make a difference to you.
Excuse me, that's a social welfare argument, that it's good that you
built
built a house for another person.
No,
that's fine. I don't argue with that. How much growth would £100 million create?
I don't accept the premise that £100 million, because it's such a small part of obviously a very, very large budget, is insignificant. And also I think it's about the indication that you signal that every single pound matters. Now, what Labour is absolutely categorically clear about is we will be very strict guardians of public expenditure. Public expenditure really matters to people.
This is the new line, isn't it?
No, it's not a new line. I've always believed it all my political life.
You never said that when you were last on this programme.
Well,
let me
maybe
ask
I was never asked, but believe me, I believe that. I think you have to be very strict guardians of public money.
Your policy, then, is it implicit now in Ed Ball's speech that if you win the election in 2015, you'll stick to the existing current spending plans?
No, that's not our indication, no. But what we have said is that we'll be very strict with public expenditure. We have recognised that given where we are with the failing economy, given this government's abject failure to get the economy growing, we're one of the least successful economies. We've got the IMF telling the government to turn course. But given where we are, we need to be honest and say that if we get into government in 2015, we will be in a very difficult environment.
I understand that. So will you increase current spending?
Well, we're not going to publish our budgets. We're not going to write our budget. Now, why would we write our budget now when we don't know absolutely what will happen? But we're giving an indication.
But Gordon Brown did in 1996. He said he would stick to Tory spending plans.
Well, he did. Yes, I remember that well. He did say that in 1996.
So why can't you do that now?
Because it's not appropriate for these circumstances. And what we won't do.
What was different between 97 and now?
Well, because we've got a Tory government that's creating such difficulty, and we live in a different environment.
But surely that would mean it's more likely that you would have to stick to current spending plans or even spend less.
No.
I mean, Mr. Brown inherited a rising economy in 1997. So let me just get this right. You cannot tell us whether you will increase, stick to, or cut current Tory spending plans.
What we are saying, there's things the government could do just now that could actually alter the economic climate. For example, they could follow the IMF's recommendation and put £10 billion into investment, and the economy could show some signs of recovery.
So that would add £10 billion to spending?
Well, we won't know until...
I thought you were going to be very strict on spending.
Hang on. We won't know until we actually publish our budgets at the time of the next election to know exactly how money will be spent and what the exact priorities are. But we're making a very important point this week, and that is that Labour will take a different approach to public expenditure, and we will reprioritise within public expenditure. That's the difference.
Well, you say that, but actually you're taking a different approach to what you said only 2 weeks ago. You're now going to go along with the cuts you attacked when the government cut child benefit for better off taxpayers. You're now going to you now think you won't reverse that, correct?
Well, Ed Miliband hasn't made a speech. I respect Nick Robinson. I know that he's reported that
So are you for or against it then?
Well, we'll wait and see what Ed Miliband has to say tomorrow.
You haven't got a view on your own?
Well, your highlight said it's about the challenge between universal benefits.
Do you think that better off taxpayers should get child benefit or not?
Well, if I had an absolute choice, if money was not an option,
the current situation.
We would prefer universal child benefit to be universal.
Money is always a problem. It's never free.
But we're in a very different circumstances just now.
Keep child benefit for better off taxpayers?
Well, what we are saying, and Ed will make his own speech tomorrow, and I don't have foresight of that speech.
No, but I'm not
giving it
asking
to you
for Ed
just now.
Miliband's opinion. I'm asking for your opinion.
What I'm saying to you is we are now in a very difficult financial situation.
What's the answer to my question?
And it is very different. What we are saying is what were universal benefits before, like the winter fuel allowance, that we do need to look again at that. And it's what you prioritise and where your spending will be prioritised that will govern what Labour says we will keep and what we will change.
All right, but that's just the rhetoric. Let's try and get to some hard facts. When the government took away child benefit from better off taxpayers, your party said it was ill thought through, unfair, and showed that the coalition was out of touch with hard-working families. Is that still the case?
I do think that was unfair, and I do think they hadn't thought it through.
So you're against it?
They've got themselves into a complete mess. But what we are saying is when you get into government, and when we come in 2015, we won't be able to do all that we wanted to do, and things that the government have done, that what will be our priorities then in beginning to tackle that? So,
I'm sorry, is taking child benefit away from better off families ill thought through and unfair or not?
I thought it was unfair.
But you're still going to support it?
I think there's a difference when you say when a government does think that was wrong and it was unfair and ill thought through. If you come into government, hang on a wee second. If you come into government 3 or 4 years later, you then decide what are your priorities. Now, we'll have lots to reinstate that the government has done. Will child benefit for the wealthiest people be our top priority? I'm not sure about that.
Why didn't you say that at the time?
Because that was then. And
it was only 18 months ago.
No, but when we come into government, we will have to make up for a lot of what this government's done. We will have to make priorities about that. We won't be able to come in and say everything that's gone will change overnight what the previous government's done. And we'll have priorities about how we tackle that.
So you're getting rid of the winter fuel allowance. You're going to go along with the Tory plans to take child benefit away from better off families. Both two big dents in the universal welfare state. What's next to go?
Well, what we are saying is
What's next to go? Don't tell me what you're saying. Tell me what's next to go.
What we need to do is look and see, in terms of public expenditure, what are Labour's priorities. We think there's better ways that you could use public money.
So what's next to go?
Well, we will give our plans at the time of the budget. We've been very clear. Ed Balls has made it really clear, Andrew. We're not going to do that just now.
So you'll give your chance what at the time of the Labour budget?
At the time when we publish our budget plans, what we are saying is the government has got us into such a situation of economic failure. We think there's things that they could do just now. We think that, but nonetheless, when we come back in 2015, we need to be honest with people and say we can't do everything Labour would want to do because public expenditure will be in a very different situation. But we're signalling now that there are things we really have to get tough about, and that's what we're doing.
Okay.